I've done a number of things, but one of the main things, I used to be in a rock band called Mass in the late 80s, early 90s. We were signed to Abstract Records and we did tours of Western Europe and the UK and John Peel sessions as well. John Peel was quite a fan. And then I worked also as side projects with members of Killing Joke, Sisters of Mercy and The Mission. And I also do some jazz as well, and I'm still doing that. I'm not doing the other. It's not very often that you see something that really does take off. You do get a lot of events and gigs that you go to that are memorable and they're really, really good, but there are some that just stick. Neil Young at Hammersmith Odeon, and this must have been around 76, 77, I think. I can't date it exactly. Neil Young at that point was one of my great musical heroes, and a friend of mine managed to get tickets down in the front rows at the Hammersmith Odeon. Didn't get to go to that many gigs in those days. They weren't that easy to get to necessarily, particularly for me. And so I hadn't been to very many at all. And so this is one of the first big ones. I think there was something about the fact that it was Neil Young, you know, almost with this, at that point, this kind of quasi-godlike status that made it more effective. You're seeing someone that, you know, from the age of 14 you've been a massive fan on, and suddenly here's the man himself on stage. A lot of it is due to Neil Young's actual charisma as well. He's a tall bloke. He's taller than I thought he was going to be. And just as he commands a stage, and I think when somebody commands a stage like that, you can't help but get locked in. It's like a great actor. You cannot help but get locked into that. It was just before Neil Young had started using what they call festival seating, because he did not like having music business and business people in suits in the front rows of his gigs because they weren't his audience. He didn't consider them his fans. When he came out and all of us there dressed in our lumberjack shirts with hair down to our waist and everything, shouting, "Neil, Neil." And there were so many of us all looked exactly the same. You know, identikit Neil Young clones. And out he came dragging his guitar behind him, glaring at all these people in suits at the front. And then just launched into a very, very political song called Campaigner. And from that moment on, it was absolute magic. Yes, we did very much feel part of it. I mean, we're very, very involved. It is one of those sort of ritualistic type of things where the artist is giving out and you're giving back to the artist, and that's when a really, really good gig happens. There's a whole combination of events that all come together to make the event, or combination of circumstances that come together to make that event work. And I think it's, I hate to use the term X Factor, and I don't, no reference to Cowl or any of that stuff, but there is that kind of indefinable thing when all of those elements come together, all of those things come together, and the event just becomes something else. It goes out somewhere else. It's very difficult to define. If I'm performing myself, sometimes you'll do a gig and you'll think that was really good and the audience thought you were rubbish. Sometimes you'll do a gig and you think it wasn't that good and everybody thought you were fantastic, and any shade of grey in between. So you can never really tell, never really tell. It's always difficult. And of course, when you're on stage, rather like in here, you're distracted. There's lights, there's not noise actually, there's no crowd noise, and there's nothing flying through the air at you, which has happened. Yeah, but or anybody invading the stage and jumping on your back. That's Glasgow. Yeah, you know, it's. Oh, how do I put it? There's sometimes when the magic just works. I know that sounds a cliche, but it's true.